Yo, how's it going? Welcome back to Sinister Customs. And today we're going to talk about carbon fiber. So I get asked quite a bit on how I made this chassis and the double motor mount there. So I thought I'd just kind of go over it. So the materials I use for both the motor mount and the chassis are 1.5 millimeter thick carbon fiber. And I get a sheet like that one there off Amazon. It's like $25. You cut at least 2 frames out of that. But the way I start off is, of course, designing what I want to cut out of the carbon fiber. So starting with the motor, that's just your regular old plate there. Get an idea where the transmission is, that kind of thing. From there, you can kind of do whatever you want, just keeping in mind where the transmission's at. So like here would be if you wanted to run a taller gear, maybe place the motor up a little bit higher to make room for something. Running the factory gear. So I always like to just put the gear in there, trace around the gear so I know where I need my other gear to land. And I like to do all that in something permanent, either permanent marker, just a pen, whatever. And then I'll do the rest in a mechanical pencil. That way, if I need to erase a design, something, I'm not erasing my original piece that I need to keep. And then, so once I've got all that drawn out, you can figure out the gears you're going to use. So, like, I think I used that one in there. Actually, I think I used that one. But you just, either way, line it up with that gear to where you're like so. And I like using the mechanical pencil. You can click it out a little ways. You can get down in there, draw in there. You know where your gear is going to go. So for that one, I used... Oh, I dropped it on the floor. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. So for that one, I used the BAM mount. Once you've got your little hole, or where you know you want your gear to go, just line that up. And be sure when you do, especially if your motor mount has like adjustments that you're going to be cutting into it, be sure they're all running the way they need to adjust. So, like see here where your spur gear is, these need to adjust into the spur gear. I don't want it like that or something and then trace everything out, because you want it to adjust the way it needs to. And so you just line the center up, and then you can draw out, and you do that hole, those holes, and then you've got it all drawn out to cut out. Now, so if you wanted to do, so this is kind of drawn out right now, just to where it'd be kind of like that mount there. So your transmission would be on the back side, just kind of how a rear facing mount, just like your factory motor. But if you wanted to do kind of the forward facing, like maybe double motor, like how the semi is, then you would want to basically make 2 of these templates. Your one template is going to have the holes and everything for the motor mount itself. Your other template's going to have the holes for the transmission. The one for the motor will also need, oh, there we got 2 right here. So these were one of the initial ones I cut out for the semi. So you'll need one motor mount is going to have the holes for the motor. The other one's going to have the holes for the transmission. But you'll also need to have the hole for the spur gear nut to come through on the motor. And then you make the 2, or make all your holes to mount these 2 together. I just used your brass link fittings, just those little brass balls that come for your shocks or your links. I just use those. Those work perfect as spacers. And so I use those in between, ran a long screw in between those, and that's how I mounted those like that. But yeah, so if you wanted to run, this with the motor facing the other way, you're pretty much done there. Cut that one out. You're good. Motor on the other side. Bolt it through like how you would. You're done. If you wanted to run it like this, you could do it multiple ways. You could either just run spacers off here and space your motor out, kind of how these are, to where your motor just spaced out that way, and you're off just a flat way, or your flat motor plate. Or you could do the 2-plate system like that and run them together. I think this way is probably better. You've got a more grounded, sturdier, instead of just having spacers on bolts coming through to hold your motor that way. Yeah. So I think I went over that pretty good. From there, I just cut out the piece. So just cut out the little template, whatever you're doing, and then I will test fit everything thoroughly with the piece I cut out. So this was actually the front piece. So I was pretty confident in myself. I didn't actually test fit this one after doing it, but you drill out your holes and everything like that. Actually bolt everything together. Make sure you're good, unless you're pretty confident, and then just go with it and hope for the best. But as you can see, it's not always the best. There are plenty of times you don't do exactly what you had planned and end up just wasting carbon fiber. But yeah, so in a perfect world, you would drill out all your holes and bolt everything together just using this piece to make sure you're somewhat right. Granted, you're not going to have the thickness, you know, so it's not going to be 100%, but you can get an idea that your gear spacing, that kind of thing's in the right spot by bolting this up to the transmission, making sure all your holes are going to be where they need to be. After you've done all your testing, made sure everything's where it needs to be, your motor's not going to crash into your transmission, all that kind of thing, then you just go on to taping up some carbon fiber, placing it on there, tracing that out, cutting out the carbon fiber. So for cutting out the carbon fiber, I use a air cutoff wheel. The dust that the carbon fiber produces is flammable, so I wouldn't suggest electric. You can, if you do, make sure you're in a well ventilated area, not getting a lot of dust up in the motor itself of whatever electric tool you're using or power tool you're using. Yeah, be sure to wear a mask. I mean, a respirator preferably. You know, if you don't have a respirator, just a dust mask will work good. But this stuff is, you don't want to be breathing this in at all. For drilling purposes, these are the two main sizes you're going to want to use, the 1/32 and the 3/64. So your 3/64 is going to be a straight through. That'd be like nutting it on the backside. You're not going to be able to thread that. The 1/32, you can actually tap that one and thread it. Into plastic, you're fine with just screwing a screw straight into it. However, if you try to screw straight into the carbon fiber after drilling that, you're going to have some issues and possibly break the screw off. So if you drill with the 1/32, you can waller it out a little bit with the 1/32, kind of run the screw in and out a little bit to get it to kind of make your own threads. But I would highly recommend tapping it if you can find a tap that small. So yeah, that's basically how I go about making the motor mounts. Make your template, find out your design where you want it, cut it out, test it, put it on carbon fiber, cut the carbon fiber out, and then for doing the motor, or for doing the chassis, I will just take kind of the same principle. Instead of the motor plate, I'm just taking a stock chassis now, kind of figuring out where my holes are. Those 4 holes, making sure you don't move it. I'm not using this one, but you get the point. You can draw out the chassis if you want, get the main design. And just make sure, you know, if you want to use, like, let's say for this point, I still wanted to use the factory mount for the rear. And you just come back here, make sure whatever chassis design you want to use is going to implement those. And just draw whatever chassis you want from there. Like so. Come up like so. Yeah, whatever. Get the point. And from there, it's the same thing. You know, you got all your holes there. Cut that out. Test fit that. Screw it to a stock chassis. Just make sure. And then, you know, once you can just put this right up to the side of your stock chassis. Unscrew your shock and kind of figure out where, you know, if you got your links down, figure out where you're at or where your shock's going to land. So that way you can get your holes decided. And then, you know, you can do all this before you've ever even started cutting any carbon fiber. And that way you've got it all planned out where everything's going to land. You know, if you want to build a carbon fiber plate to go up top, you know, it's all up to you. It's just a sheet of carbon fiber. You can make it what you want. So, but that's kind of the design process, is the manila envelope, draw it, whatever out you want, and then from there transfer it onto the carbon fiber and cut it out. So hope that helped you guys, and love to see some of your carbon fiber creations. Have a good one.